right, this should be going here in about 1 second. There we go. So thank you for joining me today on Talk to the TCs. I have Kathy Edmondson from Mobile Homes for You, and she's going to do her dog and pony show and tell us a little bit more about her and her business.
Hey everybody, yeah, I'm Kathy Edmondson from Mobile Home Loans for You, and I specialize in mobile and manufactured home loans, mostly in leased land, but I also do parks with land and private land as well. We can do all the way back to 1960 to brand new.
Oh, that's amazing. How'd you get started in doing this?
Well, I got started in real estate back in 1999 as a real estate agent and loan officer, and then I got my broker's license in 2004. In the past 10 years, I've specialized in mobile and manufactured home loans.
Awesome. What do you love the best about your job? What's your favorite part?
I think my favorite part is helping people realize home ownership because not everyone can buy a $500,000, $1 million home. So if you can put a roof over your head that's affordable for your family, it's great. I work with a variety of people. It could be seniors who have sold their bigger house because their kids are gone. They don't want to deal with a big lawn. To first-time home buyers.
That's amazing. What's some different tips and tricks you could offer to those of us who are a lot of transaction coordinators? I know I've been doing way more mobile homes, as you said. We've had downsizing, trying to get into a first-time home buyer because of opportunity and limited supply. What are some things that we should know specifically about mobile homes?
Well, as far as helping your real estate agent getting the a transaction coordinated, make sure they use a mobile manufactured home purchase agreement. Now, the main differences is really going to be on page 1 of it, where it says 1F. It's really important that they fill in the year and make of the home, the length and width, and the serial numbers. If it's a single wide, obviously 1 serial number, double wide 2, triple wide 3, and so on. The other thing we need to have is a decal number. The decal number is really important to escrow to pull the title search because we're not on regular title, we're on HCD title.
And is that something the seller should have? Is it something they can look at on the unit? Where would they find that number?
You could find the decal number in the back of the home under the sink, but you should have a copy of the title search if you're the owner of the home. On the title search, it has the year, the make, all the information on there, length and width, decal number. It has the date manufactured, the date first sold. So basically it has everything on there you possibly need for a transaction.
Okay, great. So that's something to remind them to look for when they're starting to take the listing. It's definitely a document we want to have ahead of time for everything else. What's something you run into that causes, I mean, obviously besides not having all these numbers, what do you run into that causes delays on your transactions?
Communication sometimes with the agent. I think the transaction coordinators help me more sometimes than the agents do. They'll be like, hey, did you know that, the appraisal, they have to go back and forth with the price, or the home inspection, they're, figuring a seller credit out. I've gone all the way to loan docs and ordered them. And they said, oh, by the way, we've got a $2,000 seller credit. And it's like, well, I just ordered loan docs, but let me see if we have enough, costs that will not affect, having to redraw.
Right, because that can definitely, I know that causes delays and problems all the time. So besides these things we were talking about, is there anything else that you're having to constantly correct, or is there anything with the applications, or what would you recommend, just little details that we should be looking out for?
Well, as far as applications, I mean, a lot of real estate agents do sit down with their clients in the office and they help them with that sometimes. Now, for us, is a big thing. Make sure they fill it out completely. You want assets. You want to make sure you write down if you're married. You want to write down if you have any dependents under the age of 18. One of the things I see a lot is they don't put down their dependents, or they write down their 68-year-old mother. It's not really a dependent for us. If it's 18 and under and you're responsible for them, then it's your dependent. Your wife is not your dependent. And your 19-year-old daughter is no longer your legal responsibility. And you don't want to write that down because for each person that's on there, they take out like $200 a month out of your ratios. They figure it takes at least $200 to feed the child.
Right.
So and then make sure you're at their current rent. We're looking for, payment shock basically. So if you went from paying 1,000, you're paying 2,000, that's a big difference.
Definitely. That makes sense for just the jump of everything. Now I know I've run into the situation with because some of the parks are 55 and up, and the applications and such. Is that something that you would need to have copies of, or is that I've had different experiences across the board when working with them?
Okay, so senior parks are a little tricky, and it depends on the park manager, how stringent they are and what rules they are. So we've got three different kind of senior parks. One is 55 plus. Everyone living in the house has got to be 55 plus. Even if you're not on the loan, you got to be 55. Then we have the 45-55 rule. One person in the house has to be 55. Everyone else has to be 45 and younger. So if you have a husband 55 and a wife 46, you're good. But you can't have a wife 40. They won't allow her in. She's not senior enough. And then the last one's 1855. Everyone's 50, one person 55, everyone else 18 years old or older. No children whatsoever. Of course, the caregiver rule is an exception to the rule. So remember that. So if you have somebody in the house at 18 to 45 and it's a 45-55, if you have a doctor's note, they have to allow that person to be a caregiver live-in.
Okay, that makes, didn't even know about that for the different levels. I just know we've run into that. Trying to think, what is something, because you've got so many, there's always so many surprises, because it's not something that's been a common practice, but I know we're doing more and more manufactured housing and the opportunities. What is some unknown facts about manufacturing housing? Do you think that would be a game changer for people that they just don't understand about this portion of the industry?
One thing, if you have a fur baby, they think that dog should be under
Oh no.
20 or 30
There we
pounds.
go.
I do not. My dog is 50 pounds and she's a medium-sized dog. So what you need to do is get him to be an emotional support dog. It takes like, I don't know, less than $80 online. Doctors note saying that you emotionally need your dog to be with you. You would be super sad if you had to give him up. I mean, as far as the emotional pet support, it could be a giraffe as long as you have a note from your doctor, which is stupid, of course, but it could be a pig for all means, but it's got to be, documented, and they can't tell you no, they just can't. I've had park managers try, and there's a number you can call to report them, and I have before. You have to follow the rules.
No, that makes sense. So you can't just make your own situations for going into your parks and things like that. What do you see the future of your portion of the industry? How do you see things playing out the way this crazy year's been?
Well, I work also in conventional too. My husband does single family and we do the mobile homes, manufactured, all of that. But I see a really big bubble coming out with the conventional homes. People are overbidding for them 20,000, 80,000, and they're creating this artificial bubble. I feel that happened back in the 2007 to 2009 era. And I think we're going to go through that in the next couple of years. And what happened was people were upside down. We're not doing that for mobile and manufactured. We're not overpaying for these houses. We're not having these huge bidding wars. If it doesn't appraise for value, the seller brings it down basically. Or there might be a slight difference where they come in between, like if there's a $5,000 difference and they're willing to put an extra 2,500 addition to their down payment. But that doesn't happen very often for us. It appraises for value and it's just not overpriced to me.
Well, no, that's a huge change between the two different things. I know there's several people that I saw on our page recently that have been starting to do some files on manufactured houses and things. I know you've always been an amazing asset for me to reach out to for questions, everything. You're available to answer any questions if anybody has anything about this type of lending.
Sure. They can always give me a call if it's detailed. If it's a quick question, send me an email. I work best by email. I know that real estate agents work best by text, but they have to understand that for me to interview a client, at the minimum, we're talking 12 to 15 questions to see if they're going to qualify, just to qualify, not to answer their questions. So can you imagine me trying to text somebody with 20 questions? So they have to call me and talk to me and go through the steps. But after we do that first interview, they're pretty good. Oh, the one thing I want to tell the TCs about too is the parks. They want you to come in for a first interview because you have to do a double application, one to get the loan approved, then you get the offer accepted. Then you go into the park to pick up their application. They go over with you their rules and their regulations. Sometimes they give you a tour. They let you know, when the pool's open, the spa, and, if they have any kind of a rec room. And then they tell you what financials to bring back. You make an appointment, you come back again. They like to see most of the family they can to make sure that they know who's all going to be living in the home. And then you bring back the application with your financials. Now, some parks take a couple days, 3 days, a week to get approved. Some take 2 or 3 weeks. So as soon as I get a purchase agreement, the first thing I say, like a parrot, did you go to the park yet? Did you start park approval? Because it could be a while.
Definitely.
You never know.
Well, and now that we're out of as much of the holiday season, but I know that can just like with HOAs and such, cause delays. So you've got to be ready and thinking about that as the offers are going in, and reminding the agents who may not be as familiar as well with all these different bits and pieces that go to these type of transactions.
You know, and speaking of agents, there's one thing that people, if you're an agent and you've never done a mobile home manufacturer, that they don't like that we do. And I've tried to explain to them, and most of them get the concept, but they don't care sometimes. I'm not going to order an appraisal for a client who doesn't have park approval. I can get them a loan putting down 35% if they have a low credit score, like a 580, 600 or below. But if the park is not going to approve them based on credit score, or my loans allow you to go up to 59% on your back end, but they're like, no, you got to make 3 times your rent. Why would I have them pay $450 for an appraisal if they don't have park approval? So I'm going through that right now with somebody, and she just doesn't care because it's not her client. And I'm like, you know, I need it in writing then from the other client stating they know the 450 might go away, because once it's done, it's done. For me, the process should be, you get approved, then you get an accepted purchase agreement, then you go get park approval. Once you have park approval, do the home inspection, make sure nothing's wrong with the house that you can't live with or they won't repair. Then you do the appraisal. They want to do the appraisal as soon as they get the accepted purchase agreement, and that's just not how it really should work, at least not for us, because there's other steps to go through.
That makes sense. Now, are you running into delays or anything with your time frames because of that? Is it something they should extend out the appraisal contingency because of needing to have, or even add that park approval is a contingency of the offer?
We should be okay with a 17-day. That's kind of standard on most contracts. We're okay there. But our loans are not going to be a 3-week or 4-week period. They're typically 30 to 40 days for leased land. And they're 45 to 60 with land. So it's a little bit longer. And the reason the land ones take longer is simply they have a smaller department. One lender, I have 3 I can go to. One doesn't even do land and home. 2 other ones do, but they're smaller departments, because what we focus on is leased land. There's really not a ton of land and home, mobile home parks out there. And of the few that are out there that are land and home, if they're FHA approved, you can go anywhere. You don't need me for that, unless it's an older home, a 1960 to May of 1976. Where other lenders can't do them, I can still do land and home that are older. Other lenders, they either have a June of 76 date that they will do them, or it's got to be 20 years or newer. And to me, I can still do them. So those are the ones that I take off of everyone's hands if they can't do them. So if they're FHA approved, you can go FHA on some of these. And they're okay. So for FHA loans, you're looking at 3.5% down, you know, credit criteria and the DTI. They have to have a permanent foundation with a 433 ARC, and they have to be an FHA approved park. I don't care about any of that. I don't need a permanent foundation. You don't have to be an FHA approved park. But if I see you are, and your client comes to me and they have credit good enough to go somewhere else, I will refer them out to a friend who can get them a 30-year term. They can get them a lower interest rate, because we do a max of 20 for 2 of my lenders and then 23 for the other one. So we don't do 30.
Okay. Can you explain? I'm familiar because I just learned about them, but what is it? The 433, and what a 433A is?
433A or C is basically saying it's on a permanent foundation, so you can't move the house easily. It's almost the same as putting it on a regular house. You're putting it on a foundation. There's no wheels underneath. You just can't hook it up kind of easily and take it off with a semi truck.
Now with
It's
that
permanently
one,
affixed.
so because I think I actually pulled it from a prelim when we had to get a copy of the certificate on that one. Is so it's typically those actually do have prelims because they're attached, or
if it's land and home and and it has a permanent foundation, it will say on that title prelim. It's got a 433A or C. And if you don't see that for a regular lender, then you can't do it. You're going to have to send them over to Kathy and I'll do it.
That's, hey, you know, we all need, there's a reason and a niche for everybody. So it's good to know when you've got backups. I know you've been able to help a couple of my clients when we weren't sure what to do. So it's been great. Okay. So we've got the best way to contact you. Is there anything else you can think of, little tips or tricks that you would suggest we help kind of keep an eye out for?
Just make sure your client's getting park approved, make sure they're getting everything in. If I have a loan in progress, every morning pretty much you get an email. saying, hey, how's everything going today? This is what I still need. If I get an email, I go through it right away, cross up everything I did receive so we can clear it, send a new email, usually within an hour, saying, thank you for the items you sent. This is your new condition list. Because if I don't do that, they'll kind of slough off. And I usually work with the client directly on this because it's their personal information. But if I don't get a good response, I'll copy in their agent so that they are aware of I'm not getting what I need, so that they can kind of push on their side.
Well, yeah, and help manage expectations and time frames. And, unfortunately, we all do this all the time. So we forget 17 days is stuck in all of our heads, but not everybody else's.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, awesome. I appreciate you so much. And thank you so much for being here. I'm definitely going to make sure your information is shared. And if anybody has any questions, Kathy is a great resource. I hope you reach out to her, and I hope you have a great day. Thank you again, friend.
And thank you, everybody. If you need to call me, it's 1-800-520-5344. And then my email is Kathy, Kathy, mobile, MOBILE, home, HOME, and then loans, LOANS, the number 4, the letter U at Gmail. So just give me a call or email me. Thanks.
Thanks again.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.